So there's kind of your like-for-like replacement. But, you know, in this is the kind of scenario, it's the kind of matchup that we've talked about several times over the course. You know, I've brought it up and then Lorinda has referenced it. It's the kind of late game race scenario where it's two decks that really don't do anything in terms of pressure. They don't do anything in terms of pushing tempo. All of their minions are very low impact in terms of the damage that ramps up on board. But what they're trying to do is dig through their deck and find those activators. And it's the kind of matchup where a Battle Rage can come in very useful for the Quest Warrior, because a lot of the time you're going to get a board state which is like my 2 4s and 2 3s versus your Saronite Chain Gang and Life Drink.
Right.
At which point you can just go trade, Battle Rage, draw 5 cards, and that can almost be game ending in that position, and let alone the natural synergy that you have with your Blood Razors, with your Warpaths and so on. So that not being in the deck for Silvername could potentially come back to bite Russia.
I will say, though, I do think the Quest Warrior has, due to its looser restrictions on getting to its win condition, they need to play Taunt, whereas Shudderwock needs to play Life Drinker, play Saronite Chain Gang, get the Grumble effect, get the Zola effect if that's the case, then play Shudderwock and hope it works. You know, that's way more difficult to do in general than playing 7 Taunts for a Taunt Warrior.
Yes.
So there is I think there's a little bit of an opening there for Silvername to just rush this down and just say, look, you can heal for a lot with Healing Rain, but I can also do 8 damage a turn for 2 mana. Like, you know, how do you deal with that? Right,
and but that is a little bit where the scales start to swing back as well, because when the Warrior completes their quest, the game doesn't end. Right?
Yes,
there is still 2, 3, 4, maybe more turns afterwards where Shaman can, you know, stick stuff to the board, stop hero powers connecting with face, heal up with Healing Rain twice to get out of range again, and in that time they use those extra turns to finish, quote, their quest of completing their Shudderwock, then the game ends.
Yep. I will say as well, it's quite difficult to manage the healing plus the activators for the Shudderwock as well.
Sure.
That's something that is, if you mismanage that, you can just die, or you know, just as bad to some extent, just be in the same position as the previous turn, so you've not really gained anything except 1 card draw, I guess, which is something. But we're going to kick it off with a Cornered Sentry just on 2. We see this much more commonly in the control matchups, because who cares about the 1/1s? They're just going to die. There's no Flame Tongue in this deck. You know, the minions are going to die, and you want to just get that quest going as soon as possible.
So the immediate play here that leaps out to me is trade with your nice little Raptors, and then drop Acolyte of Pain as opposed to Manatide Totem. This surprises me, because you have the biggest threat from the opponent here in terms of interacting with your turn 3 card draw minion is Coin Blood Razor. And Acolyte of Pain interacts a lot better with Coin Blood Razor than the Manatide Totem does. There is the result, by the way, of that game that we've been following of the off-stream matches. Greece picking up the 3-2 victory over Mexico.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and watch the VOD of that as well, because that must have been a bit worrying for Greece. I don't know what the matchups were, of course, but based on you go 2-0 up, then you 2-1, then you 2-2, like, oh my, we're not going to lose this last game, and just sort of not throw it away, but just throw all that hard work. So that'll be a cool one to watch.
And if you do want to catch up on any of the off-stream matchups, they will all be posted within a very short time period on the Hearthstone Esports YouTube channel that you can go and catch up. So if your country was not featured on stream in any given week and you feel like you've missed out on the action, don't worry, you can always go to YouTube and check it out.
Yeah, which I'm very much looking forward to. Definitely one of the benefits of doing Swiss. We don't get to show everyone on stream, but we do get to show everyone. There's the Owl coming down on the Manatide. Going to slow down at this cycle, but it does mean as well that the Acolytes have a slightly bigger chance of getting new card draws off, just because, yeah, Manatide's going to be 1 a turn, but Acolyte can be normally as an average of 2.
Yeah, and maybe that was the concern with why they went Manatide Totem instead of Acolyte of Pain, because the Ironbeak Owl long curve, of course, means Acolyte of Pain draws 0 cards, whereas Manatide Totem draws 1 if you play it and it then immediately gets owled. So now having the Manatide get owled means that this Acolyte of Pain interacts in the exact same way as it did on the previous turn with the Blood Razor setup. So there hasn't really been any kind of punish on the sequencing from Brazil.
Russia now have to just work out what they want to do because of this Acolyte. I don't have any strong disagreements with just dropping Chain Gang and saying, right, whatever, I'm just going to get to this quest. You are going to draw 2 cards from Acolyte, but fine, it happens. You can't always just 100% deal with Acolyte every single time you see it played.
Yeah.
These Blood Razors are a little bit weird though now, right? As the game continues, Blood Razor's power kind of just dwindles as you're not negating things like the Mana Tide as directly. You're not killing it off in one swing. A lot of the time I see from Blood Razor right now is just extra damage and maybe to take down Saranites a little bit easier.
Chooses to leave the spell damage totem on board, which leaves them a little vulnerable to Lightning Storm, just with the state of the board that they're looking at. But I believe if they take that off the board, then they'd be looking at, what is it, remaining in play 16 total health, which then is a misery for Volcano, because there's an Acolyte of Pain on the board already. It would be 17, actually, because the Owl would still survive. So there would be a chance that the Acolyte didn't pick up too many card draws, but it would still be a very worrying situation.
Okay, well, Mind Control tech there, taking the Chain Gang. Probably the best steal, right? Just in case Grumble is drawn next turn and in some world the Saranite doesn't die.
Sure.
If you have to pick one, right?
It's the best steal because it's a 2/3 with Taunt, which is the best minion on the board.
So was Conan Sentry before the attack.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's marginally better to get Saranite Chain Gang, yeah.
I love matchups like this because we really go in on the what's the 0.1% chance better.
Yeah, sure.
It's just funny more than anything. Clear what's gonna happen and leaving these tokens on board, or totems, more accurately, is actually important. When it gets to things like Grumble, look at this hand now when you Grumble, like something breaks or there's too many things on the board for when Shudderwock comes down and the Grumble effect happens, which then means you could miss the Shudderwock, not because it didn't bounce, but because it broke, because you can only hold 10 cards. It's actually a big deal, this.
Yeah, and it doubles down on difficulty because one of the easiest ways to nuke your own board of a bunch of nonsense that you don't want anymore is to play Hagatha. But then by playing Hagatha, which AoEs your own totems away off your board, you then just reset that's the same situation because every minion you play after that just puts a spell in your hand that might even end up being uncastable. But you can say goodbye to this spell damage totem at least because they're off the death rattle, it's going to get rid of it, and now there is just that one silence Mana Tide in play that needs to be worried about. So not too bad.
The cards in hand get the quest done. It's just when. Since there is, what? Hang on, 7? Is that 3? Yeah, 7 taunts. Maybe even more if they got more Phantom Lashes. It's going to go for double Phantom Militia this turn. Still the Stonehill, sorry, in hand. They can then probably just going to pick the smallest taunts possible, just to try and cram them in as quickly. That's 4 out of 7 currently on the quest. 3 more left to go. 2 are in hand at minimum. And then, yeah, like I said, the small minions are going to pick it up pretty quick. But Brazil now is starting to piece together everything they need. Even the shard's actually not too terrible. Maybe to lock out some weapon swings later on. But these Saranites need to start hitting the board, in my opinion. You don't want to get locked into just delayed turns. It's like you've got Saranite, kind of play it like Warrior and just drop one, especially if you have the 2 in hand.
Yeah, there is, of course, the consideration that I was talking about when we had the reverse Shudderwock matchup, where you kind of want a Saranite on the board in a situation where sometimes you then get to make more copies of it on the following turn, because it reduces your eventual failure rate at the end of the game to play more Saranites over the course.
Right, and I think the big reason is you have 2, right, in hand, so you can afford to just drop one, get it live, it's done. That's 4 mana used now instead of having to use 4 mana way later.
Yeah.
What we probably won't see played this game, if it continues in this fashion, is the Acolyte of Pain in Race's hand. Just because there's already been a lot of card draw, and I guess unless this mana tag gets cleaned up, which looks a little bit difficult to do for now.
Yeah, I think if the Acolyte, if the Mana Tide goes down, then this hand's actually quite easy to feed out by Brazil, right? It's like Earthshock, Healing Rain, Glacial Shard. These are really cheap cards that they can just throw out. So it should be fairly straightforward for them to be able to empty their hand and then be okay playing the Acolyte of Pain. But it is, you're right to point it out because it's a real worry against a deck that's capable of casting Whirlwind effect, right? You know, if you ever get into a situation where you're playing Acolyte of Pain and it's even theoretically possible that your Grumble or your Shudderwock of just get burned, it's something that you have to think about at least. I'm not going to say just don't, because sometimes you might be losing the race and need to take that risk, but it's definitely something that you have to keep in mind.
How long can this go on?
Yeah, nothing fancy doable with these Tyranic chain gangs, so just going to get them dropped on the board for race and for Team Brazil and just get things cooking basically. They still need the Life Drinker, I believe, and there's the one Glacial Shard as well, which is important even late game to lock out any sort of reverse swing minions, swings from Sulfura, swings from the Death Knight weapon.
Yeah, and they also still need Grumble or Zola at a minimum, ideally both.
And this happens with Shudderwock. You have to be prepared for, because you need, you need like 2, 3 out of 4 key cards a lot of the time. You can play the Shudderwock without Zola if you have to, for example, but you need a lot of pieces. It isn't like, oh, I just need to draw this Death Knight or I just need to draw this card. It's like, no, I need to draw like 4 or 5 of these cards, play them, and then hope it works. And that's a big ask when your opponent is also doing similar, but in a way faster fashion.
Yeah, and this is a single Life Drinker as well from Brazil. So that is, a 1 card that they have to find, and it's going to be difficult for them to go off without that Life Drinker in there. They can,
against Warrior.
Against Warrior in particular, yeah. They can potentially get stuck in a spot where they just have to rely on making boards of Shudderwocks every single turn and just hope that there's eventually a whiff where the Warrior can't clear them. But yeah, they're going to have to assembling almost all of the combo. You don't have to assemble all of it. As a wise man named Meatloaf once said, don't be sad, because 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I actually did not really know where you were going with that, but then I came all the way back round.
As a wise man named Meatloaf once said, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone till the morning comes.
It's like,
it's cold and lonely in the deep dark night, and I can see paradise by the dashboard light.
Lyrics with song. Which is probably something you'd quite enjoy, to be honest.
There's your boy. Shudderwock is picked up. But
doesn't matter though, does it, for now?
Exactly. Brazil is still several combo pieces short. No Grumble, no Zola, no Life Drinker. All of those cards one-offs in this remaining 12-card deck.
I'm going to ask you a lore question.
Oh, no.
No, you should know, because this is one I've 100% asked you before.
Okay.
Sulfuras. Where's it from? Whose weapon is it?
Ragnaros.
Right, okay, cool. That'll do. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know its full title?
No.
Sulfuras, Hand of Ragnaros.
Okay. Wait, is it his weapon or his hand? Which is it?
I'm just telling you what the card's called. Not what the card's called, what the weapon is called.
I can't deal with these inconsistencies in this lore you're feeding me, Raven. You can't tell me it's his weapon and then tell me it's his hand 3 seconds later.
It's called Hand of Ragnaros. I believe that's the name of the item in World of Warcraft. I'm 99%.
All right, fine. I'm going to ask you a lore question about Meatloaf.
The food or the...
Either. Choose.
Go. The answer is, I don't know.
Let the pain speak to me.
Not being able to swing the weapon is actually pretty annoying right now.
It's a nice tidy turn with the Bloodrazor Death Rattle and the Acolyte of Pain on board, though, and as well it takes care of the 2-1, which leaves better targets now for this Rag Shot. And boom goes the Manatide Totem, which I'm sure Race was very eager to hold on to there. It's helping him dig his way through.
It's just not Grumble again, is it? Not Grumble, not Life Drinker. I think Brazil is starting to, or should be starting to feel a little bit afraid. They're going to feel the heat of the fire. these balls that Russia are throwing at them if you're going to talk about Falcon.
You can't play that game and then just break out laughing yourself.
It was
when you
because
do it.
I was ready for it.
The rules,
I was ready for it. Then I relived the moment that quote's from.
Okay.
And yeah, I handled it a lot better now than I did when it happened. Put it that way.
It's true. There's Zola. Okay. Piecing together.
Okay. Grumble's the important one though. Zola, you can kind of do without a little bit more than Grumble, I would say, because you want the 1 mana Shudderwock, right?
Sure.
Versus the, okay, I've played a 9 mana Shudderwock, I have another 9 mana Shudderwock to try again the turn after.
Yeah. But it's a nice time to pick it up as a last chance saloon, because it's the last turn that you are going to have a Saronite Chain Gang on the board. So now you're going to push up your bounce odds from 66.66 to 75% with the 3rd copy of the Chain Gang.
Execute on the Acolyte. I don't know about you, Sol, but I like it. Probably frustrating for Russia at the moment that they don't have any way to just clear the board. Like, why shouldn't they be allowed a way to clear the board if it's a 1 health, a 2 health, and a 2 health minion, right? It's something the deck does. But I do agree with this execute. You've not seen Grumble yet. If you've not seen Grumble, it often means they don't have it.
But this is exactly what I talked about, you know, when we were introing the matchup, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, is that, yes, Warrior gets their job done so much quicker than the Shaman, but does Race care about what's happening right now? He's still at 30. He still has more minions to play to make Silvername's life awkward, and he still has another healing rain to buy him more turns. And all he has to do is find a couple of key cards out of the 8 remaining in his deck.
It's definitely a worry when, I would say, Russia completed their quest medium to fast speed. You know, it wasn't slow in any way.
Yeah.
And
it was. I would call that really quick. They would. I mean, with double Stonehill and the Phantom Militia early on, I think it was a very fast quest completion.
And yeah, they're not dead yet, right? You know, it's kind of scary overall. And don't get me wrong, like Race has and Brazil have every right to already have played Grumble by now. They have 8 cards left in the whole deck. They
still need Grumble, and they still need Life Drinker if they want to get anything even approaching an inevitable win condition out of their Shudderwock.
Yeah, the Brawl is a nice safety net just in case they miss the Life Drinker, because Russia will know they only have 1 as well. Excuse me, but the deck lists are open. There's a Warpath, but a bit late to the party.
Right.
It's still probably... Is it ever worth it?
You're asking if it's worth it to Warpath for 8 damage here?
Yeah. What are you Warpathing right now?
I mean, you have the weapon that you can just hit the 0-2 with anyway. I feel like the Warpath is more valuable against like a Saronite Chain Gang turn or something.
Sure. I was just going to say he does know that the Saronite's there, right? Because that's the Zolad one.
Right.
Oh, okay. Life Drinker. Tick that box.
So now, in theory, any turn Race really feels like he has to go with Shudderwock, he can. There is a chance from now on that he is able to play a Shudderwock every turn.
I wonder.
Yes.
You seemed very deep in thought about that statement.
Because there's also a chance, but it's extremely small chance, that Life Drinker doesn't die, and then Zola effect can hit the Life Drinker.
Oh, sure. I mean, like, if you're playing your Shudderwock on an empty board.
Yes.
Then
Yeah. I'm just trying to work out, because he could even Lightning Bolt his own minion if it sticks, right?
Sure.
But again, the uncontrollable nature of the Ragnaros hero power means that it's also quite likely it does just get hit for 8 damage and die anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, particularly, because Russia's whole game plan here is kill
Press hero power, right?
clear your whole board and hit you in the face with 8 every turn.
Yeah. It's just, when you're doing these desperation Shudderwocks, you do have to think, I need to give myself as much percentage as possible for this to happen.
Yeah. The problem with the Zola plan as opposed to the Grumble plan, though, is that there's only 1 Life Drinker in the deck, so therefore there's only 1 Life Drinker being played, so Shudderwock only heals for 3 a turn, because you're only getting 9 mana Shudderwocks back every single time.
Yeah.
Healing for 3 a turn does not deal with getting hit for 8 every turn.
Those numbers just don't really work out, do they? funnily enough, the lack of Hagatha as well is something to note. That you don't just play Hagatha when you want a 50-50 best every turn at this point. Hagatha gains you the armor, but loses you the ability.
Oh, this is so many totems that are getting hit here.
Is that like 24 damage now on the totems?
Something approaching that.
Guess what? 0 to face.
Farsight is about as good as it gets of the remaining deck that isn't Grumble. Earthshock is just a huge whiff. Grumble, come out to
Where
play.
art thou?
Race needs you right now. The country of Brazil needs you right now. All the Silvername fans in chat, though, would like you to stay nicely buried in those bottom 4 cards, though.
In the bottom 100 slots in the card holder.
Yes.
This is... Totem!
Oh!
Ugh. Okay, I am...
Nothing like, Raven, a good rag 50-50.
I am a completely non-biased caster, correct? Kind of.
Sure?
And I'm feeling bad for Russia, right? I kind of wish
Yeah.
one of those shots would go face because this is heartbreaking. That we've all been there, but 4 in a row, I think that was, has hit totems.
There's the Grumble, and now Race executes the plan. Here's why he's been holding the Chain Gang so long. He Chain Gang's down, he Grumbles, he picks them back to hand, and now he can put another Chain Gang down before his 9-mana Shudderwock turn if he wants to do that. Gives himself so many options. He can even play both of them alongside a board clear turn on the following turn if he wants to. It just gives him maximum flexibility and what kind of odds he wants to take with his eventual Shudderwock.
And guess what? Brazil are nowhere near dying.
Yeah.
They can now take all the time in the world because they have guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but a large effect of it actually pulling off here. Whereas Silvername is just not pressuring any real damage, and he just cannot hit face with the hero power. Oof.
So now, decision time. I think you are at 75% right now for the Grumble to go off after a Chain Gang. You can take that up to 80% by playing another Saronite before the Shudderwock. You can play both of them this turn and just play other minions. Use a kind of Pyromancer clear turn here even if you want to.
I'm just slamming Shudderwock on 9 and just saying, let's go.
Brazil disagree.
To be fair, he doesn't have the Hydrogen, right? So have the potential double AoE to clear built into the Shudderwock.
I think he just Race understands here that the game is won, right? If Shudderwock works, the game is won. So why not play both Chain Gangs before you Shudderwock, just to give yourself maximum chance of that?
Again, you come at me with your logic, Sol, and unfortunately I struggle to argue.
So now this is the Warpath turn that Russian Federation have been waiting for such a long time at this point. They've kept resources like Brawl and like the Warpath in hand for so long because they knew they'd had to deal with this kind of stuff. Right now this Dry Whisker Armorer comes down, picks up a little bit of extra armor, not that that's going to end up being super relevant. And there goes the 8 that pushes Race down to 18. The Shudderwock will heal him back up to 21, which is still nice and safe outside the burst damage potential from Russia.
Hold on to your seats. Here we go.
We are looking at Race.
Look at Race.
Chain Gang.
Oh,
There it is.
Yep.
Chain Gang lands just the 1, but the 1-mana Shudderwock will do just fine because that means he can now play it in the same turn. And all of these Shudderwocks, which are now being generated, are going to come back into his hand for the next turn. And that is just the G'est of G's. Race is going to get his moment in the sun after missing out at the HCT Summer Championships by bringing a lineup that just was not the right read on the tournament, or at least for his group. But this time, they've got everything spot on, and Brazil are going to pick up a very hard-fought victory in an absolute marathon of a series over Russia.
It really was, and the focus required to just stay on top there. And I guess it may have helped because Shudderwock, you know what you have to do, right? Especially in that matchup. it's pretty straightforward, but you still have to play well, of course. But it was pretty insane that Grumble was so deep in the deck, but once those Saranites went down, that was just too much to handle.
Yeah, my heart does go out to Russia and to the swarms of Russian fans that I assume are in chat.
I thought you were going to say the swarms of totems that were annihilated by Russia.
That is my point, yeah. 24 to 32 damage ended up hitting 0-2 totems in the end from those Die Insect hero powers. So, yeah, in a different world, Race would have been under much more pressure there. And even if he did get through to the Grumble, maybe didn't have the time to have that double chain gang turn at the end there and really maximize his odds.
Turn.
Who knows? But, what I do know is that Russia were very unlucky with their 50-50s.
Yeah,